Hello everyone, today I'm here to talk to you about a small print and play escape room style game. It's a small 18 card deck. It is the Groundhog Gambit from the Holiday Hijinks escape room line of games. And that is from Grand Gamers Guild, who did provide me the print and play files to review the game. So it's an 18 card deck, so straight away you're sort of probably thinking, well, this must be a really short experience. You know, you're turning over cards in an escape room, solving puzzles, and let me just tell you, this took me over an hour to complete. So it is by no means a short escape room. So let's go through how it works. It's got a website that you can go to on your phone or computer. I used my computer sort of for this one, but it seemed to work very well on that. Effectively, you are utilising that, a bit like in other escape rooms, to interact with things on the card, to look at them, to maybe find other things, maybe to go to a different room if you're looking at a door or a staircase or something. And that's going to then give you one of the other cards that you're going to take from the middle. And this is where it gets interesting. So this is the way this sort of escape room works, is that you're going to go back to, a bit like in a Groundhog scenario, you're going to be going back to the same locations, but by looking at the things at the same locations, each time you go back, well, maybe something has changed. Maybe it hasn't, maybe it has. You've just got to work your way through the escape room, which is how it allows the 18 cards to actually do so much more. Because while, yes, you're maybe interacting each time you're going through this loop with maybe 7 or 8 of those cards, next time you might see 4 of those cards again, but they are different. Maybe the same style of puzzle, maybe doing some additions and checking it against tables and stuff, but you're doing that to get these code words to enter into that website that unlocks that puzzle, gets you through. Maybe you're entering a password, a keyword somewhere, and that's getting you into the next thing, getting you the next object. Because each card is both maybe a puzzle but also unlocking another item for you to use. And that is how the experience works. You're trying to get through all the puzzles in the shortest amount of time, and then within that sort of website there are helpful tips, there are hints that you can use. I did use a couple throughout. And let's talk about that straight away. Every time I used a hint, it was one of those good frustration points. It was, I was so close. In one case, I'd actually got the letters, and for some reason, my brain couldn't rearrange them into the word. As soon as I saw the word, I basically face-palmed. So I used some hints along the way. That system worked really well. It sort of gives you, here's a hint, maybe you want to look into this, maybe you should do that, here's what you do, and then here's the answer if you still can't quite work it out. So it was a really good system of sort of, it doesn't just, right, I need a hint, it gives you the answer. I need a hint, maybe look over here. Okay, I need to know what I'm looking for. Okay, that's that. And I'm stuck, give me the answer please, and it will. So you can progress even if you do get stuck on a challenge. There was very little need for sort of external information because that website had a lot of the stuff, and the cards, the puzzle cards, give you information themselves. Most of the time it was referring to the information tab on the website, potentially, but not always, to try and deduce what the code means. Sometimes the cards were exactly what you needed. Sometimes you just needed to take the information from the cards and look them up in the right tables to get the keyword or whatever. And that's how a lot of the puzzles worked. It was trying to deduce what the puzzle was trying to get to, and then follow it through to either get a keyword or number or something, using an item with another item, because that's how the app works. Once you'd got an item, maybe you got a rubber band or a pencil or something, then maybe you could use that with something or at a location to trigger something, and that's how all that sort of escape room goodness is working. So that's how it sort of works, and I was really blown away by the fact this is 18 cards and a really ingenious way, that groundhog sort of thing from the name, but also from the concept of going back to locations, what you think is the same location, and it triggering different things. The first time it happens in the experience, I was a bit like, okay, so I've got to put all the cards back and draw the same starting card and go again. And then as soon as you do one thing, it's like, oh, hang on, that is different from last time. And then you can start to say, yes, this is how this is going to go. I've got to keep solving these puzzles and try and crack our way through sort of the groundhog loop. Really, really like that concept, and it works perfectly with such a small deck of print and play cards. It worked fantastically well to just sort of go, so few cards, but utilising them again because of that website app thing, that worked really well. Now the app, like I say, it has your information, your hints, it's where you're entering the things. I think that worked really well. It sort of did exactly what you needed to. There was, like I said, a couple of times where I'd got half the clue and I needed that hint just to be like, oh, obviously, how did I not see that? And it all worked very well. It could potentially look a little bit nicer. It could be, you know, a bit flashier in terms of the way that it's sort of set up and everything. But importantly, it works to get the puzzle and the escape room going and continuing. And hopefully finishing, you get out and you get your time and score and everything like that. Now, I'm not a huge sort of carer of the escape rooms in terms of scores. I normally think if you manage to get out, you've solved your puzzles, you've not just used hint, 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 hint to get all the way through, but there is that sort of thing where you can share it and see how a friend or family member or whatever, how they've done, and you can compare. So that's a little bit of sort of an extra interest if that's something for you. In terms of the deck of cards, it's 18 cards. Now, it's print and play is the version I had. It's, you know, it's not necessarily very fancy, but the artwork is relatively pleasant throughout. It sort of illustrates the different locations. You can very clearly know this is a classroom, this is part of a house, or different things like that. The different sort of puzzles when you're revealing them, sometimes it's just on one card, sometimes you've got to sort of line 2 cards up to try and sort of build the puzzle out before you solve it. That worked really well, even though these were sort of printed played cards. It was never a, oh, does that fit, unless that sort of, does it fit here or here or here or here, is part of the puzzle. When it's very much, one of the puzzles is put the 2 cards next to each other, there was no issue of, does this line up, does that line up? It was very obvious, very clear, and from sort of a print and play production quality, that's exactly what you need from it. It needs to be very easy to know, yes, I've done sort of the printing and that correctly, so I didn't have an issue with that at all. So again, another plus point for the experience. Escape rooms rarely grab me in terms of their theming. I've done ones which are Star Wars themed, Sherlock Holmes themed, and mostly it comes back to that you're doing these puzzles with cards, and very much like in the Groundhog Gambit, I found that the puzzles interested me. I wanted to solve them, to crack these puzzles as they came along, and actually, because of the way you keep coming back to the same locations, that groundhogish sort of theme does come through. But apart from that, like with most escape rooms, it's sort of more the overall story that's just sort of tying these puzzles together. So while it didn't enthrall me, it did do that job of sort of containing everything into that enjoyable puzzle solving experience. And like I say, it's not against this game. I just find pretty much all escape rooms, they have a theme, but it's mostly a sort of an excuse to tie the puzzles together, and I don't think there's sort of anything different here. As I mentioned, despite being 18 cards, it did take me over an hour to do this. This was on my own, solo. I do think that's not necessarily the best way to play this. I think at least having one other person there, with most escape rooms this is true as well, having 2, maybe 3, just allows you to bounce ideas back and forth. like one of the things I hinted on, where I had got the correct letters, but for whatever reason couldn't see the word out of them. Someone else would probably have instantly gone, obviously it's, and sort of given me the answer, and we could have carried on. I wouldn't have had to hint, or we wouldn't have had to have hinted. And they're good sort of experience for a couple or a small group of friends. I don't think you want to go too many people, because there's often in this, there was only sort of ever one, maybe two bits that you could be looking at. Maybe one puzzle with between two people, I think maybe three is maximum. They could all be looking and trying to work out it out from different angles. One person controlling, sort of typing stuff into the website, someone else trying to solve the next bit and swapping round. I think that sort of player count would work well, and I think this is probably the most obvious part of me enjoying the experience. I'd be really up for trying more of the holiday hijinks escape room series, and trying to play it probably with my wife, who also enjoys escape rooms. So that is, yeah, let's end the review here by saying I really enjoyed this as an escape room. It was a really solid one. The app and website thing, that worked really well for allowing you to interact with the cards, to get hints, and to sort of have information on hand that you're not having to look up or whatever. It's got it all there. Not always telling you, well, never telling you which bit of information to use, but just being like, this is Morse code, this is flags, this is a range of information, some being red herrings, some not, for you to sort of utilise to try and crack and solve some of the puzzles. The fact that it's 18 cards and it created an experience that wasn't done and over in like, well, less than 18 minutes, highly commend that. I think it's a really interesting design, the way you're looping back, and the fact that the same locations spit the same style of puzzle out, but different answers and different. That's really impressive design. Really did enjoy this one. So if you like escape rooms, definitely one to check out, and probably a series of escape rooms to check out as well. Anyway, that is the Groundhog Gambit. Check out other news and reviews and stuff on the channel, and until next time, have a great day escaping.